Why this matters is crypto in the end is the best performing asset class in all recorded history. It dwarfs anything else. So Bitcoin does about 142% annualized returns. This is actually a table from Exponential Age Asset Management, my asset management firm that invests in crypto hedge funds. So we invest on behalf of high net worth individuals, pension plans, institutions, etc.
The so-called banana zone has come, and the prices of cryptocurrencies are going through the roof. Market capitalization-wise, Bitcoin is worth 7,612,000 USD as of Thursday. It has grown 8.4% this week, 22.5% this month, and 80.8% so far this year. The crypto growth started not long before Donald Trump's historic election win earlier this week, and has picked up speed since the U.S. Federal Reserve cut interest rates by another 25 basis points on Thursday. Bitcoin is at an all-time high. More people are interested in other coins. In the last week, Dogecoin, Cardano, and Solana have all gone up by more than 20% in the last 24 hours. Sui, Ethereum, and Avalanche are each up 18.8%, 16%, and 11.71%, what the crypto fear and greed measure says. Market mood is also at full throttle for the first time in months, which shows how excited and positive investors are about the rally that is still going on. Raoul Pal, founder and CEO of Real Vision, calls this the banana zone. During a crypto bull market, prices tend to go up a lot during this time. Pal says that we are now fully out of the boring zone and in the banana zone, where crypto prices will continue to rise sharply for a few more days.
What happens normally is around the Bitcoin halving or around the early part of crypto summer. Now, we're not talking about summer as in actual seasons. We're talking the 4 seasons, which correspond to each year. The early part of the year usually is something called the boring zone. So it starts strong and then sideways corrects after the halving for an extended period of time, and then eventually begins to break out. The breakout usually ushers in the banana zone. So we've had the boring period. It was about 8 months long. It was a nice, orderly correction. So what lies ahead? The banana zone. The fabled favorite yellow fruit of all of us. The one where our hopes and dreams are all in it. Let's talk bananas. So when we look at halvings, from the halving, you can see what happens until the end of that year. So we had 2020 at the top, was very strong. We had another strong year in 2016, and 2024, we're a bit below par right now. But don't worry about that, because you'll see it in context of everything else. We should still see extremely strong price rises. The US election, well, that's a key time for this, because after the election, we get the banana zone. There's often liquidity being injected into the system, and there's also a shared sense of optimism that drives prices higher. We are just starting that now. At time of recording, the election was 2 days ago, and already crypto prices have started their explosion into the banana zone. Bollinger Bands are a measure of volatility or lack of volatility, because Bitcoin was ultra low volatility recently. And that's really interesting, because every time you get there, when you get these kind of low volatilities, you tend to get large price rises. And we've been following that kind of price action. So you tend to get 200, 300, 400% rises over the course of 6 to 12 months. So that, I think, is another interesting signal. So suppressed volatility usually leads to hyper volatility. Also, Solana exhibiting extremely low volatility. That box in the right, it shows you that every time we've got to these levels, we've seen everything from a 25% rise to a 520% rise in 2 to 3 months. This is bananas. Now, looking forwards, the business cycle is starting to pick up. So current ISM today is very lackluster. It's almost recessionary conditions, which is why many of you think we're in a recession right now. The forward-looking indicators are exploding higher, meaning we're all going to have some more money soon because the economy is going to be working better, our businesses will run better, our earnings will go up, and we'll feel a bit better about ourselves. That's what lies ahead, and is at the essence of what matters in the banana zone. And you see the financial conditions index, which is our lead in all of this. It's comprised of oil prices, the dollar, and rates, is also suggesting that ISM leads. And it's a pretty good indicator. So that it leads ISM, and by 9 months. So we kind of know the business cycle is going to be going up at least for 9 months and probably a lot longer.
It's all part of the business cycle. And according to Pal, the business cycle is telling us a very nice story of higher prices, a good business climate, and overall economic well-being for at least the next 8 to 12 months. It's all part of Pal's famous everything code thesis. In a recent thread on social media platform X, Pal makes this thesis even easier to understand. Stats Are Destiny says, the post-GDP goes down over time as the number of people working drops. The ratio of government debt to GDP is only affected by the number of people who are working. This helps make up for slow growth and pays for the interest on the debts that keeps adding up. To sum up the code, this is the most important figure in macro. A smaller trend is caused by an older population. Lower GDP growth means that more debt is needed to keep growth going and take care of the elderly. Every 4 years, central banks print money to pay off debts, and the numbers go up. We are now in the number go up part of the business cycle, and Bitcoin is at an all-time high. A friend says it's almost altcoin season, which is when all the magic happens. Here are some more video clips from the show.
Now here's where the magic happens. Altcoins, as a percentage of total market cap, so it's like the inverse of Bitcoin dominance, actually is driven by the business cycle. And that's because people take more risks and invest more money when they've got their earnings going up, when people think they've got a bit more money. And that is what drives altcoins. It's the same as small caps in equities. They're all driven by the same basic phenomena, which is the business cycle creates more activity, which creates more investment, which drives prices higher. So we've barely started. As I showed you before, ISM starts going up, altcoins go bananas. Now, when we measure altcoin season by using this 30-day outperformance, underperformance of Bitcoin, we're nowhere. We're still at 39%. That's mid-cycle range. We've got a long way to go. And that's when things get very excited. It tends to be the last 12 months of the 4-year season, that 4-year period. Those last 12 months are where all the returns come, and they lie ahead. Also, total liquidity is breaking out. We see these wedge patterns every time around the same time in the cycle. And then what happens is as soon as it breaks out, Bitcoin breaks out too. We're breaking out now. China is leading it. China's injected $8 trillion of liquidity so far since, I think, October, November 2022. Europeans about $1 trillion, the UK about $1 trillion. The US has actually been about flat, but we expect them to start injecting money soon via the Treasury General account. Okay, Global M2, it's a measure of private money. It leads by 11 weeks, Bitcoin. Perfect. And Bitcoin, banana zone. We keep going. So that looks great. Now, don't get fixated exactly it's going to be 100,000, but it seems in that kind of range. Basically, a strong end to the year and should get even stronger into next year. GMI total liquidity, another fantastic correlation, same kind of outcomes. Strong Bitcoin into the end of the year, and that's what we're looking for here. Ignore the corrected price action right now on that chart because it hooks up afterwards. So we should just continue over time higher. Okay. Are we anywhere near the cycle top? I know people fret, oh my God, but Bitcoin's at all-time high. Surely I'm going to be buying the top. Surely Raoul's shilling things at the top and he's trying to find exit liquidity and all the nonsense that people talk about online. Basically, our cycle liquidity indicator is nowhere near where it's going to go. Also, look at the acceleration that happens before it peaks out. We haven't done anything yet. This has been super mild. So expect the acceleration ahead. If we look at prior cycles, we're kind of nowhere in the current cycle. We're nowhere. We've still got the exciting part where prices go vertical lying ahead. It's the light blue line here that's a little bit hidden. But really what we're doing is we're more closely following let's say the 2015-18 cycle, which I think is how it plays out this time, as opposed to the stunted cycle of 2020. But that remains to be seen.
Last week, Ethereum, the biggest altcoin by market cap, went up 16%, while Bitcoin went up 8.75%. It's not even close to its $4,875 high point. Someone who used to work at Goldman Sachs said that friend thinks Ethereum will catch up to Bitcoin. Due to the risk-taking cycle and the election, which will probably lead to stricter crypto rules, I think Ethereum will catch up to Bitcoin. There are two big changes that could happen. Number one, DeFi utility tokens will start to offer yield or reward of the core protocol, which adds value to the network. Most of this is happening on Ether number 2, where traffic will likely start to build bigger use cases. On the most widely used chain, though, think of Ethereum, and the L2 as the Microsoft of the Web3. No one gets fired for Ds. These two things can make Ethereum more popular and slow down retail uptake on other networks. Higher Ethereum yields will also bring in more institutions. Yields make it possible for better regulated financial goods, such as guaranteed funds. Because of these improvements, this action will go through the roof. But he thinks that for the rest of the cycle, Ethereum will do better than Bitcoin, but worse than Solana, which will do worse than Sui, which is in the final stages of acceptance.